Welcome to the Disco Ball Discourse, and tonight I have a theme. Put it on my frame. Obviously, this is going to be a discussion with myself and a review of Joker 2 Folie à Deux. I hope I said that even close to right. There's a lot of French themes in all of this, obviously, with the title. Okay, so I want to start out. I have notes. I am office manager and 80s baby, 90s kid, so I write things down. Okay, so wrote it down, went over all my notes. Got a little drink here from Sonic because Texas. I know they have them in other places, but that's a big thing here, getting a Sonic drink. Hopefully I can stay on track. And I noticed in watching my other videos, I say a lot. I'm really gonna try to work on that. Okay, so I'm probably gonna say it 1,000 times anyway. Maybe it's a fun game. See how many times I say it on accident. Okay, so to start this video, I want to say I'm going to review the movie that I watched with my son and my daughter-in-law last week for his birthday. They invited me to go with them, and I was like, yes, of course. I really wanted to watch this movie. Super excited. So this whole podcast and overview was absolutely going to have spoilers. Spoils the whole thing beginning to end, okay? So if you don't want spoilers, you want to see this movie, you want to have your own view of it, don't watch this. Otherwise, if you don't plan on watching it anyway, then just listen to this, I guess. And then maybe check it out. I don't know. I want to hear what other people think. And the reason why I say this is because in everything that I've looked at online and heard from other people, everyone hates it. Everyone. All they're giving is the Rotten Tomatoes review and everything. So this is the sequel. I'm also going to click this pin a lot, to the first Joker movie that came out in 2019. And like I said, really, really bad reviews. I happen to feel completely the opposite. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this. Number one, so I have something to talk about. But number two is because I saw this in a completely different light. So if you're one of the people who liked it, please tell me. And, let me know what you liked about it. Let's see. So the reason why so many people didn't like it is because these particular movies aren't for someone going, oh, what's at the movie theater tonight? Let me go and watch this. This is for people who are fans of, the DC universe and of these stories and of these characters in the first place. So the movie is starring Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. The fact that I saw that Lady Gaga was going to be a part of it, I was like, I am there. Let me just start with a little bit of an overview of the first movie, and it'll be really short. The first movie goes over the character Arthur Fleck is his name, and he has the illness I don't know how to really say it, but the short term for that is PBA. What that means is sudden and uncontrollable. Oh my gosh, sudden and uncontrollable inappropriate laughter or crying. And this is a real thing that plagues a lot of people. And so you can see that in the first movie for sure. It's he also has a borderline. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm going to start this over. Oh. Okay, no, this is real. Borderline personality disorder. I blame it on these things, having to say that. Say that 3 times really fast. He is also known to have a traumatic brain injury, and he suffers very heavily from his psychiatric delusions. So that's what the entire first movie is about, in developing the Joker character, and it's kind of his origin story. Let's see. Okay, so what happens in the first movie, also going to spoil it, is that he murders several people and he is thrown into prison. That's the entire first movie. He was a failed clown, and then he also did some stand-up comedy, and he was terrible. He was awful. In his head, though, he was amazing. He was great, and he really went out there to do those things. Failed miserably. In the movie, he's also, I think, being medicated. He's seeing someone for that. I mean, he's trying, he's struggling, but he really just goes off the deep end. So, in my opinion, the first entire movie is all completely about him being in a completely manic state. It's all about mania. And it's something very, very mental, and he just cannot help these thoughts, these delusions, and these urges. and it shows him spiraling off into becoming this terrible person and murdering a lot of people. So the style of this movie, the first movie, and even the second movie, I would say is a more realistic style. It's not like, oh, the other movies where you've got like the Penguin and the other Jokers that were out there. Not to criticize any of those styles, but they're just completely different. They're more comic book style of movies. And so this one reminded me of the Batman with Robert Pattinson in it, because that movie was more of a murder mystery, and it was very realistic. I remember watching the car scene and the car chase and everything that was going on at that time, and I was like, oh look, the Batmobile didn't like turn into a helicopter and shoot sparks, and do crazy comic book things like that. It was more realistic. And so I personally really like both styles, but I really like the realistic version. And so that's what these movies do, and that's what this is. It's more of telling a story in a more realistic style. Let me see. So Gotham in this universe here for Joker and Joker 2 is modeled after New York City in the 1980s. And I like that vibe, obviously. Did I know New York City in the 1980s? No, but I like that period of time because I'm my age. I'm about to turn 44, and so I liked that older style, the way they filmed it and everything. And so that's what it looks like. That's kind of the setting and the vibe that you get. There was a lot of high expectations for this sequel because the DC fans liked what they saw in the first movie, and I think the reason it's getting so many bad reviews is because they liked this piece of the story right here. They liked all of the mania, all of the crazy, all of him turning into this thing and giving into all of it and being completely psychotic, and the murder. I'm not saying people who watched it are psychotic murderers in any way. I'm just saying I think they liked the way he just went nuts. He went crazy. And so in doing that, it was a great movie. I liked it. If you like things like that, if you don't like psychological thrillers or things that are gory or anything like that, definitely don't watch the first one or the second one. But here's the twist that a lot of the DC fans, I think, did not like. And actually a big reason why I liked it. This movie, I found out before I went to watch it, was going to be done as a musical. I'm not saying The Music Man. I'm not saying The Sound of Music. I knew it was going to be some sort of spin on that. So I would even call it, after having seen it, a mini musical. It wasn't, first scene and everybody's singing all these songs and no one says a word without singing. It wasn't like that. So I knew what to expect when I walked in there, that they're going to break out into song. Okay, well, I do like The Sound of Music. I do like movies like that. I like the artistic interpretation of things like that. So that didn't bother me going into it. And I know a lot of people were like, I don't know, musical in this universe, in this way, I don't know how that's going to work. And that's probably why it was really disappointing. Another reason I think it was super disappointing for a lot of the fans, and I know there's a huge age range that spans, but I can see when I heard the songs being played, I got excited. I'm old. If you were a 20-year-old in there watching this movie and you heard the music, I can understand complete confusion. What is this? What are they singing? What is this song? There's no reference to that because it's so old. I listened to things, interviews, I watched a lot of reviews on this, and so the music comes from the Great American Songbook, which is American songs and jazz, like the standards and the classics from the early 20th century. I promise I can talk. I promise. I'm really excited about this. I've been writing notes and listening to things and listening to music, so I'm a little worked up about it. If you're not a fan of those things, not even just to be a fan, but if you don't have any reference to those things, that probably didn't make any sense, because they didn't sing it as an exact replica every time of what that song is originally. Some are pretty close though. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So the second movie starts with an animated little piece, which I thought was great and funny, and even a throwback to cartoons at that time. And so it starts it out that way, and then he wakes up and he's in jail, and they're going through yucky jail. Wake up, it's the morning, come to the door, we gotta do all this stuff. And so the guards are commenting in the whole beginning about the change. They're like, hey, tell us a joke. Hey, tell us a joke. Hey, no smile for us today. Hey, no this, that, and the other. And they bring that up. And when I was thinking about that part of the movie, I thought, why do they keep bringing that up? Because Arthur now is quiet. He's sullen and sad. And he's just kind of turned really inward. And I thought, why are they bringing that up? Because the person that was put in jail was going through a huge stage of mania, and so he came in that way. So when the second movie picks up, that's not who he is. And I think that was pretty off-putting to the fans of the first movie, because we saw just this craziness over here in part one. And so for the second one, he became more introverted and a lot more quiet. And my complete opinion, no one has to agree with this, is that this second movie is really exactly what it is, which is a part two. And I feel like the entire movie is about Arthur's character development. Okay, I wrote that in big letters and underlined it a bunch. Character development. And so this isn't going to be what I think is a cop-out when people go, oh, we just made billion, trillion, zillion dollars on this movie. Let's make it again and let's just like change it up a little bit. I think that that's what, you know, people call phoning it in. And then I was listening to reviews and people really thought that he phoned it in for this movie. And I was like, how could you? It was completely different. And I really think it's because the director, Todd Phillips, I hope I didn't get that wrong, he did the first movie, and when he came over to do the second one, he did a true sequel. He did something completely different, and I think he said, okay, here's Arthur Fleck, here he is, he's becoming the Joker, he's living in all of this crazy world, and when he comes to part two, he's going, okay, this is the second part, this is him, this is his character developing into what this is next. So in this movie also, we are introduced to, of course, Lady Gaga, who plays Lee Quinzel. I hope I said that right. Lee Quinzel, also known in the comic book universe as Harley Quinn. So they give her a more realistic name. It's like a real person's name. You know, no one's really named Harley Quinn. So her name is Lee, and that's how she is referred to in the movie. She admits herself into the Arkham State Hospital because she is obsessed with the Joker. She's crazy. She admits herself in there because she's such a super fan. She does things to put herself in there because she wants to get close to him. And in the movie, he's given this special allowance to come over to this part and join this. They sing songs and they do things in this group because someone thought it would be good for him and got him the clearance. And that's how she meets him, because otherwise he's just sitting in a jail cell all day. So we watched this movie with my daughter-in-law, and she is a cheery, happy person. And I think because she doesn't have such a dark mind or background, this was a little confusing to her. We walked out of the movie theater, she and my son and I, and we were discussing things, and she was kind of like, I don't get it. And I said, well, of course you probably wouldn't get it because it is. And he and I started to explain, you know, a lot of the background of what she just watched and witnessed, even though she had just seen the first one. Arkham State Hospital, we know what a state hospital is also known in the comic book version of this as Arkham Asylum. There's several names for it, but that's what it is. It's a state hospital. It's an asylum. Where do people go for things like that? I mean, it's not for, because you had a bad day or you had a teeny bit of depression once. No, it's for the super crazies in this made-up universe here. So the movie follows their bonding and their relationship that develops. They happen to share delusions. You can tell when they meet each other, they're like on the same level of crazy a little bit. And so it shows them coming together that way. And at some point in the movie too, they have a lot of shared delusions that they do together. And that's where a lot of the singing comes from, when they sing together. Whenever it's cut to the scenes where they have some bigger musical numbers on this stage, it's kind of 70s and 80s, like a talk show stage, the velvety curtains and the microphones and kind of Sonny and Cher vibes there. It is in the Joker's delusions. And the reason I say that is because when they're singing and they're having these conversations face to face, person to person, it's very much like if you were and I were in a room together and I decided to sing a song. It's not an overproduced version of their voices where it's... Have you ever watched movies like that where you can absolutely tell it's like, here's the movie, blah, 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 here's things happening, and then you hear the music come in, and then here's this completely overproduced version where you can tell that the character is lip syncing? I feel like I can tell when that's happening. And so whenever you're watching them, you just feel like you're in the room with them and it's happening for real. Okay, so I'm talking so fast. I don't know why I'm so excited to just like blurt this all out, but I am. Okay, let me get back to my notes though, because I want to stay on topic here. Okay, I watched a lot of interviews with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, and they were talking about and discussing their singing styles and why they did that. Whenever Lady Gaga got to set, she was talking to Joaquin, and she suggested that he sing it live when doing his scenes. And he was like, you're Lady Gaga. I'm sure you can do that. That's not what I do. I'm not a singer. I'm not a performer. That's not what I can do. She said, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. The reason she suggested that, though, is so that it had a more realistic tone and so that it didn't sound so perfect, which fits the reality of the movie and their characters. So, Joaquin was saying that he wanted Arthur to reflect and sound like sometimes a 14-year-old boy who was in love. He's not a trained singer, the character, and so he's not supposed to sound super polished and super great, and he's singing the songs that he grew up with, things that he just heard on the radio or records and things that his mom would have played in his lifetime, and so he's giving his interpretation of, I'm singing a song. If you were to ask me to sing a song or anybody else, they're going to sing whatever version that they've known or from the radio, and so that's the version you would get in reality. And so people are like, that sounded terrible, that was crackly, that was weird. He describes Arthur as a real person that's just singing what he grew up with. And so that came across to me. And I guess in watching the interviews, that made more sense to me that it was that way. And so Lady Gaga and her scenes that she's in with him in the real world, when they're not having those dreams or inside of his delusions like that, they're singing very soft and whispery and not dramatic or dynamic. And that was off-putting to a lot of people because I think that there was a lot of expectation for Lady Gaga to be in the movie and to perform a certain way. Also, being a huge Lady Gaga fan, I have an opinion about that. They didn't cast her to be Lady Gaga, okay? Because Lady Gaga can sing the Happy Birthday song, belt it out in your living room and bring you to tears. I promise. I think she's that great of a singer and a performer. She's got an amazing, powerful voice, huge range. She's awesome. But they cast her to be Lee, whatever the heck. So she's a character. She's in an asylum. She's in the state hospital. I mean, and she's meeting this person and she's a super fan and she's just a real person. So her performances are not super polished or over the top. And she did that on purpose because she's portraying this character. Lady Gaga herself has spent years creating Lady Gaga the character. And she is makeup and wigs and crazy videos and all these things over the top, and she sings, she's got this powerhouse voice and all of these things that she does, but that's not what she was brought in the movie to do. Yes, to be a singer and a performer, but she, in my opinion, is a really good actress. I remember watching her in the American Horror Story. I think she was in a couple of seasons of that, and I remember watching her particularly in the one about the hotel, and I was like, oh, she can act. She's really good. She's very convincing. So she's an artist on all levels. Her acting was good. I think her acting in this movie was really good. I think it was so understated that that was weird to some people because we see her as Lady Gaga. So I think that was off-putting to some people too. I think. I mean, tell me if you hated the movie, and tell me why. So let's see. Delusions, music, the style. Okay, so she underplayed her voice a lot, so you hear the crackly whispery. Whenever she does go into Arthur's delusions, his daydreams, whatever's going on in his head where he's imagining this great, amazing musical number, Lady Gaga herself even said, she said, I did perform in a different way. I did have a better voice. I did sing out. Some of those things were pre-recorded in that way because they're fantasies, they're dreams. And she said, I think that in Arthur's mind, this girl that he met is a great, amazing, beautiful, dressed up singer. And so those, I think, were a lot more entertaining to people, or better, because of the way that they performed it and because it was a dream sequence. Now, I think it was a letdown to a lot of people, though, because I don't think they were as over the top as they expected. And it wasn't, I don't know, a really familiar Michael Jackson song or something. I knew what they were singing. I knew what those songs were, at least a reference to them, so it was very entertaining to me. I liked the colors. I liked the way they filmed it. I liked all of that. It was a letdown to a lot of people. I had a great time. Okay, before I go on to talk a little bit more about the music, because it does have a lot to do with this movie, I will say there's one thing, a really big thing that I did not like about this movie. And it's really funny because it's just a personal thing, but there is a sex scene in this movie. I'm sitting in my recliner chair, popcorn, drink, and everything, and I'm sitting next to my son and his pregnant wife. It was very uncomfortable. I thought the scene was kind of weird and awkward anyway, and my personal opinion about movies is a lot of movies don't need all the detail whenever they're doing a sex scene. Like, you can do the, oh, we closed the door, we turned off the lights, whatever. Like, we get it. I get that it's going to be part of the story, but I don't have to see it. I don't have to see all of it. I'm an adult. I know what happens. But it was just the most uncomfortable scene. Like, if I sit at home and watch it later, I'm probably going to go, oh, that's uncomfortable. That's kind of weird. Maybe they meant it to be that way. But also to sit next to your son, I didn't even know where to look. I was like, do I stare straight at him? Do I pretend to get on my phone? Do I sneeze? Do I eat my popcorn really fast and squint my eyes? I just didn't know what to do. I'm pretty sure his wife covered her eyes. But I don't know. I couldn't even look over. It was so uncomfortable. I hate that kind of situation. If I could have just had my parents here and my son right here, it just would have been the worst ever. But I don't like scenes like that. I didn't prefer it. I wish they would have just alluded to it instead. Yuck. Okay. Rant on that over. It was actually really funny because we brought it up. And like I said, we're walking to the parking lot. We're driving home together, whatever. And Connor and I were like, well, that was weird. But, okay, so I'm going to go over some of the songs because, like I said, it is a musical, and I'm sure the DC fans could not care any less about any of this. But my very favorite musical performance, top, number one, wasn't Lady Gaga at all, which is funny because I'm a fan. It was actually Joaquin Phoenix when he sang For Once in My Life, Stevie Wonder song. I love that song. He sang 3 words in the night, and I was like, he's gonna sing this song? I love this song. So, like, me, the only person in the whole theater excited, I'm sure. He sang it live. He sang it for real. He danced around and did the number, as he was on the screen, and I thought it was awesome. It stuck out to me. It was the first one. I'm pretty sure that's the first song in the movie that they actually start singing. And I thought it was great. And I love that song. And I loved his version. It was very jazzy. Like, I thought it was a really cool interpretation. And then some of the other songs that are on the soundtrack for this are If My Friends Could See Me Now, When You're Smiling, That's Life. It's a good one. Close to You. I hope you know what that song is because it's really good. They're singing that together. And it's just beautiful. I just love that version of it. Now there is something else, and I'm not sure if this was officially on the soundtrack because I went to YouTube and I looked up the Joker soundtrack, and you know how people can just like post this picture. Is that still on there? Yes, this picture, and then list a bunch of songs on there. I don't think it's officially on the soundtrack, but she does a version of her own song, Bad Romance, and she does it completely in a French accent, and she does it with a completely different arrangement, and I didn't like it at all. I thought it was weird. It was a little too artsy creative for me, and because I love that song originally so much, I didn't like it. So, I don't know if that's official. You look it up on YouTube, Bad Romance from the Joker 2 movie. Didn't like it. However, she redeemed herself to me. I was doing more research, and I didn't even know about this, but she put out an album to be kind of like a sister album to this. It's her own album. She's singing by herself, and it's called Harlequin, and it's amazing. It's a continuation of jazzy type songs from the American Songbook, and I will say my very favorite one from that album is Smile. Look it up. Maybe I'll post a link to this if I remember, if I figure out how to do it. She sings it straight across, the way that you've heard it and the way that you know it, with her voice. If nothing else that comes from this, besides my tripping over my words and rants and everything else, Lady Gaga is such an amazing artist. She's an amazing vocalist. I remember whenever she was going to sing the national anthem at, I don't know what game, Super Bowl, whatever it was. And so she was going to be the artist, and a lot of people were like, oh, here she's going to be with her weird stuff and do something weird to it. I think they thought she was going to Fergie the national anthem, and she sang a clean, straight across version of the national anthem that is literally one of my favorites. Literally. She is an amazing vocalist. She knows how to turn it up and turn it down. She used to sing, she made an album with Tony Bennett, and it was beautiful. Like, she is just a singer also. When they do the interviews, Joaquin Phoenix doesn't call her Lady Gaga. He felt uncomfortable talking about her that way. He would call her Stephanie because that's her name. And so a lot of what's in these albums, you think, oh, she's going to Lady Gaga this song, it's going to be all weird. It's not. She's doing a really good version of a lot of these songs that I think are really true to the classic way that they were written. And so check that out. If you don't know Lady Gaga at all as an artist or whatever, listen to this. This is actually really good, and her voice is amazing. They didn't overproduce it, in my opinion. It's not weird. It's very jazzy, very simple instruments, and I don't know. I just can't say enough about it right now. I have a few of them that are my favorites. So look at me. This is why I like the movie, because I'm a big nerd about stuff like this. I like music. I like musicals. I really don't think they had too much. I thought it was okay. So I can say that I feel like that is the not the majority. That's a big part of the movie. The second part of the movie, because people are calling it a musical courtroom drama split. And another thing, I love courtroom dramas. I like real courtroom dramas, like real life courtroom things, and I like movies that are like that. So for the second half of that, if you don't like courtroom dramas, maybe you're not going to like this. But it does go into Arthur Fleck's trial. And I thought it was interesting because people expected so much of him as being the Joker and to be crazy, and he really spent a lot of the movie and that time slumped down in his chair or being kind of weird. At one point, the judge walks in and he does jump up and say something on his microphone when you're not supposed to say that, and he was like, yes, Your Majesty. And I thought that was funny. Like, laugh out loud funny. Like, that was funny. So at one point, there's several different sessions that he goes into. At one point, he fires his lawyer and he decides to represent himself. Okay, that's already crazy. So an unbelievable part where I thought the rest of the movie was really believable is that when he does decide to represent himself, he's kind of gone off the edge a little bit, and he is in his Joker makeup. And I thought, really, like, no way. That's not going to happen in any courtroom where they're going to be like, yes, represent yourself, and by the way, go ahead and be the Joker. Like, yeah, right. His face is painted. So he's going up there to defend himself, and what I think is completely hilarious funny is that when he goes up to question the witness, he starts talking in the funniest Southern accent. because he's talking normally, Joker, whatever, he's using his regular voice and accent. And then he goes up there and he's like, Your Honor, what do you think about this? And I object. And he, that was my really great version of that. And he sounds like, and they interviewed Todd Phillips, the director, for this. They asked him why he did that or why he let him do that. They said they wrote it in for him because Arthur would have only watched something like this on TV and in his delusional mind thought, oh, that's what lawyers sound like. So it's funny. It's not even a good accent. Mine was worse, but it's not even a good accent. And he kind of goes in and out of it, and he thinks that he's putting on this lawyer show like you would, you know, on TV. So I thought that part was funny too. I picked up on it, thought it was hilarious. They also represent other characters in this movie, and one of them that's a familiar one from the comic books to someone even like me who's not deep into everything is Harvey Dent. And Harvey Dent is, you know, on the other side here, representing the state. Yes. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. Anyway, didn't like the actor who was playing Harvey Dent. Didn't sit well with me. It wasn't very Harvey Dent-ish. My favorite version of Harvey Dent is Aaron Eckhart in, I think it's the one with Heath Ledger. I think that's the one that it was. I don't know. He just has his strong jawline, and he's kind of a bigger guy with broader shoulders, and I just really liked his interpretation of that. So the Harvey Dent in this movie, not a fan. At some point in watching the trial, Lee is there, and she's sitting behind him. She's like, go you, and do you, and he's always looking over for her approval, and she's smiling. And at some point, though, he starts to lose the Joker vibe of everything. He's really having this internal battle, which you can see, and in him having this battle, he starts to kind of draw back. Even though she met him kind of like that, they went in and out of their delusions together, and now he's like, no, like, I'm not Joker. When he was being interviewed by someone before he even went into trial, they kept trying to like pull that out of him. Like, they wanted to see the crazy, they wanted to see the delusion, and he wouldn't do it. And you can tell it's just this internal battle. And so as she's sitting there watching him, supporting him, they're in and out of delusions and musical numbers, she starts to realize that he's pushing the Joker away. She doesn't like that, because that's who she's obsessed with. That's who she thinks she's in love with. And so at one point, he's still going through the trial. She leaves. She's like, I smeared my eyeliner for this to look like this. I wore my, you know, because she does transform at some point into a Harley Quinn version of herself to show up and support him in court. And she doesn't like it. And so she leaves, because that's just not what she expected. So he's finishing the trial alone. I don't know what happens here. It's kind of disconnected from me, but there's all of a sudden there's this explosion and people are hurt. There's the courthouse, the whole side of the wall is blown out. Arthur escapes, he gets away, he's picked up by some super fans that love the Joker. And he even battles with that. Like, I was like, oh, he's gonna get in this car, he's gonna be with these super fans, they're gonna help him turn into who he's truly, in his mind, meant to be. And they're gonna be his supporters, he's gonna go off in his delusion, he's gonna turn into this person. And he doesn't. He gets out of the car and he runs over to the famous stairs where he does the Joker dance in the first movie, because he and Lee had talked about that being a place before, and he finds her there, and she's very, very disconnected and disappointed, and she's going to leave him because she only loved the Joker. She's very disappointed. So he gets caught. He is back in jail. I don't know why I feel like talking about this part now is more of a spoiler than anything I just said. And it took me a while to understand what had happened. I had to discuss it with my son to kind of really get what had happened. So he's in jail. They say he has a visitor. He's being led down the hallway to go and see this visitor. He's stopped by another inmate. why do I even feel like I don't want to say it? Maybe this is why so many people are sad and disappointed. It's so unbelievable. People were looking for shockers and for things that were going to be crazy and wild and, just really come out of left field and throw you. Okay, Google, stop timer. That's my reminder not to ramble too long. I don't know why this is so hard to say, but this inmate stabs Arthur. And Arthur's dying. And he's sitting behind him in frame. Arthur's laying on the floor. He's bleeding out. He's dying. And the guy said something like, he's getting what he deserves. He starts laughing out of control. And I almost missed this part, but he starts to cut into his own face a Joker smile. I think that threw everyone for a loop because then the movie's just over. And I was like, oh, so that left it really open-ended, and a lot of the reviews that I watched talk about what that is going to mean or what it should mean. Does that mean there's going to be another sequel? Is this leading over into Heath Ledger's version of the Joker? And you know what I'm going to say about this? I don't know. I don't know at all. It was very open-ended to me. I was so satisfied with the movie and the character development and all of the things that were in between. By the time I got to that part, I was just like, I have no idea. I still have no idea. I haven't formed an opinion about that at all, besides that Arthur Fleck was reluctantly this person. Not in the beginning when he's in his manic state doing all the stuff. It's just who he is and who he becomes and what he finds out about himself, and he decides to go with it, or his brain decides for him. And in the second part, I feel like that's not who he wanted to be, and that he created such a character and a persona that maybe somebody was so anxious to embody that and take it over that that's what happened. I don't know. It was a very loose ending for me. It was not like, bam, satisfying, but I'm okay with that because this movie is about people who are out of their mind. And the whole journey is from Arthur's out of his mind perspective. And because of that, I don't expect it to make sense. And I think that's why I like the movie. I think they just dove into a very sick, delusional mind, and we watched it. And so when I came out, I was like, oh yeah, he's crazy. And that's why I don't hate the movie, is because I didn't have high expectations of it being from any different perspective besides we just got to see into these two crazy people's life and into this crazy person's mind. And so, final review on the Joker 2. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm going to watch it again. I can't wait to watch it again and find all of the Easter eggs and everything else that are in there, and listen to the performances again. I really liked it. I'm probably just in this category where I'm in the audience of the type of person who would like that. I'm over 40. I like musicals. I also like, this universe and Gotham City and Batman and all of those things. I think it was made for someone like me, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't like it. So I'm okay with it, personally, my opinion. I'm not trying to go against the grain here and be like, really, you guys, you didn't like this movie? Well, I'm going to be so different. I mean, I really had a good time. I like psychological thrillers. Maybe it's just like this many people who really like it, and the fans, I'm sad for the fans who didn't like it, because I feel like these type of movies are usually written for and geared towards audiences that cannot wait to see it, and they're going to pay their money and spend their time and do their research and spread all the joy about how much they liked it later. And I'm disappointed that a lot of people didn't, and maybe it was too artsy for a lot of people, and I like that spin on it. So I'm weird, but I liked it. And I know this was a long rambly mess, especially if you've never seen either of these movies. and you're not interested in seeing any of these movies, if you just wanted the short version, there you go. And I'm sure you'll see it someday and go, yeah, that's not anything like I thought. It's okay. We all watch movies and, you know, consume content for different reasons, and we all get something different out of it. I know lots of people that don't like to watch anything that's traumatic or scary or anything like that, and maybe I'm messed up enough in my own mind that that's why I enjoy that kind of stuff. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for anyone who watched it this far and listened to my rambling. And notice I picked the Joker green pen for all of my notes today. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about anything, about this review, about the musical aspect, about any of the songs if you listen to them, about the fact that I always bring a drink and then don't drink it. Here you go. Yum, all the ice is melted. If you don't like the color of my room, whatever. I mean, just leave me a comment about anything. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being along on my Saturday night rant by myself. I have a lot of free time at night, and I'm not going to spend it sitting around by myself. Let this brain and this mouth do a lot of expression. So thanks so much for coming to the Disco Ball Discourse, and I will see you next time, hopefully. Yay, next time, different subject. Bye.